For generations, a rock off the shore of Mount Hope Bay was thought to tell the tale of Vikings sailing these waters long ago. Discovered in 1835, it quickly became known as Northman's Rock, believed to bear the Norse inscriptions of Leif Erikson's voyages. Yet this rock doesn't tell a Viking story. It tells a different, deeper, and more important story, one of resistance, identity, and survival.
In the early 20th century, Edmund de Lepore of Brown University studied the inscription closely, discovering that its characters were not Norse, but Cherokee, a language system developed only in 1821. This discovery evokes the tragedy of the Cherokee people, whose forced displacement began in 1830 under Andrew Jackson's Indian Removal Act, highlighting the futility of their sincere efforts to peacefully coexist and assimilate into American society.
Curiously, reading the inscription aloud in Cherokee yielded no meaning. When pronounced in Algonquin, the language of the area's original inhabitants, it echoed the name of the great Wampanoag leader, Metacomet. Metacomet, known to settlers as King Philip, led a fierce resistance against colonial expansion, but his story begins even earlier. During the Pequot War, both the Wampanoag and Narragansett allied with English colonists, only to be horrified by the brutal slaughter of the Pequot. As William Bradford recorded, they were appalled by the manner of the Englishmen's fight. This betrayal sowed the seeds of resistance. As Miantinomi, a Narragansett leader, warned, "We are all Indians as the English are. We must be one as they are, otherwise we shall all be gone shortly." 38 years later, Metacomet united the Nipmunks, Narragansetts, and Podunks, and even more, in the first pan-indigenous coalition against settlers. Though initial battles favored native resistance, the colonists' superior weapons and alliances with the Mohegans and Mohawks turned the tide. Metacomet was eventually betrayed and killed near Mount Hope by a native allied with the English. The war ended, but indigenous resistance did not. This brings us back to the rock. Who carved the name into the rock, and how does this story reflect centuries of Native American subjugation and enduring resistance? One theory points to a Penobscot delegation from Maine who visited Mount Hope in 1833. During their trip, they saw the play Metamora, or the last of the Wampanoags, a romanticized but powerful story of indigenous struggle. This moment may have inspired them to carve a tribute to Metacomet, affirming endurance and identity. Another theory credits Thomas Mitchell, a Cherokee speaker married to a Wampanoag woman, Zerviah Gould. He visited Mount Hope and may have used the Cherokee syllabary to encode Metacomet's name, blending his knowledge of languages and histories in the quiet act of defiance. Yet another scenario links the inscription to students at the Cornwall Foreign Mission School. To explore this possibility, we spoke with Irene Norman of the Institute for Indian Studies, who helped us understand our local indigenous roots.
My name is Irene Norman. I'm the supervisor of curriculum and instruction at the Institute for American Indian Studies in Washington, Connecticut. I am also an apprentice traditional storyteller and a descendant from the Mohawk or Gunniangahaga Nation. I have some other thoughts about who may have at least introduced people. It may not have been these people who did this carving, but between 1817 and 1827, the Foreign Mission School in Cornwall was open, and during that time they had at least 8 Cherokee students who attended, and at least 3 of those students went on to become editors of the Cherokee Phoenix newspaper, which is the first Native American newspaper and was printed in both Cherokee and English.
King Philip's War was just the beginning. The Iroquois Confederacy resisted through strategic alliances during the Beaver Wars and the American Revolution. The Ojibwe negotiated the Treaty of 1854, securing land rights through persistence and diplomacy. The Navajo endured the Long Walk of 1864, but returned in 1868 to rebuild and thrive. In the 20th century, Native resistance took legal form. Landmark cases like the Oneida Indian Nation versus County of Oneida and the Maine Indian Claims Settlement Act won back lands for the Oneida and Penobscot. Though imperfect, these victories set precedents for indigenous legal battles today. Recently, Brown University returned sacred land around Mount Hope to the Pokanoket tribe despite the tribe's lack of federal recognition, which some argue impinges on their sovereignty. The land was returned to a nonprofit run by the tribe, Though controversial, the title requires access for all descendants of Metacomet's people, including the Narragansett and Mashpee Wampanoag. It's a rare act of reconciliation. Returning to Irene Norman, who we've already seen, offers further insight into the true meaning behind the Mount Hope rock inscription.
They're not really going to see this rock that is covered by water a lot of the time. I think it was more of a reassurance to the person carving it, or to their community possibly, that we are still here, we haven't disappeared, we're set in stone.
Though the exact location of King Philip's Rock is now lost to erosion, its legacy remains. Etched into memory, it speaks of survival, resistance, and cultural endurance. The story of this rock does more than recall the history of King Philip's War. It affirms the truth that indigenous peoples have always been here and will remain here, carrying forward their traditions, resilience, and identity.